I really want to display just how bad Chainsaw Man is, so I will be doing a chapter by chapter critique on it. I wasn't kidding when I said it sucked. In the first 3 volumes, the manga isn't trash yet, it's mostly just below average, but it's definitely overrated. Chapter 1. Denji is a poor devil hunter working to pay off his late father's debt. In his past, he met Pochita, a chainsaw devil, and now they work together to kill devils for money. The Yakuza that he's working for eventually make a contract with the zombie devil, and they kill Denji. Pochita takes over his body and revives him because he wants to see the latter's dreams. Denji turns into the Chainsaw Man and kills all of his foes. Makima shows up and gives Denji a choice to die or become her pet. Since the protagonist has been poor and is easily satisfied, he becomes her pet. This chapter was alright. It wasn't as detailed as any of the big 3 starts, or any big battle manga for that matter, but it did the job. While I don't care for Denji yet, he gets a backstory and changes as a character after successfully conquering the problem of the chapter, kinda like in Bleach. Chapter 2. Because Makima is nice to Denji, and Denji is easy to please, he falls in love with her over tiny actions. I understand, but I'm not a fan of it. Makima starts acting manipulative, and Denji actually catches on. The chapter introduces an interesting conflict. Denji is supposed to kill the devil, but the devil saved the little girl. Denji plans to let her go, but the muscle devil becomes a threat when he attacks him, which removes the moral dilemma. Denji kills the devil and saves the girl. Makima tells Denji that Pochita is still alive, and Denji goes back to acting like her dog. After correctly calling her psycho in this chapter, he goes back to infatuation when he asks what kind of people she likes. This chapter was okay. A problem was built up and Denji solved it, but I would have preferred if the moral dilemma stayed. I also don't like Denji licking Makima's boots. Chapter 3. Denji's infatuation increases as he now wants to bang Makima. He's upset that he has to work with Aki and wants to work with Makima. He even asks Aki if she has a boyfriend. This man is an idiot. Aki beats up Denji because he became a devil hunter to chase after Makima, which Denji confirms. Denji fights back and explains that Makima was the first to treat him like a human. Plus, his current lifestyle is better than being poor and hungry. At the end, Denji is still in love with the psycho. It doesn't make sense how he can call her a psycho and then revert to being her dog. This chapter was a little weaker than the other 2. It's basically an ideological battle between Denji and Aki, but I can't really get behind Denji's side, so that makes the whole thing weaker. Aki, however, makes perfect sense. Chapter 4. Aki and Denji are devil hunting, and Denji kills the devil. The 2 get into an argument over devils and Aki reveals that his family was killed by a devil. Later, Denji gets the shallow objective of touching boobs. Power is introduced at the end. This chapter was also subpar. The best part was the bit about Aki's past. Denji continues to be shallow and not serious. Chapter 5. Denji is paired with Power now. Power is bloodthirsty and kills a random devil and is later scolded by Maki for it. We learn that Power cares about her cat, Nyako, and she makes a deal with Denji, offering her breasts as a reward. This motivates Denji to kill the devil that captured the cat. This chapter was also below average. Hints at Makima's true nature are shown when Power is extremely scared of her, but we already know that she's unhinged from chapter 2. The major conflict of the arc is being built up, but not much has happened yet. Chapter 6. We learn Makima truly just sees the 2 devils as dogs. When they get to the house, Denji learns that Power lied to him and is knocked out. Power brings Denji to the Bat Devil as part of some deal, and the devil drinks his blood. Power's betrayal was very interesting, so this chapter was alright. Chapter 7. The deal was that the bat would return Nyako, but it eats the cat instead. We are shown a flashback of Power meeting and taking Nyako as a pet. At the end, the Bat Devil steals the cat. Power relates to Denji before being swallowed. The bat flies away, but Denji grabs onto it and becomes the Chainsaw Man. This chapter was also alright. A flashback develops Power and the conflict moves forward. Chapter 8. The 2 fight and the chapter ends with Denji killing it. This was alright. The power system and strategies are almost non-existent, so this fight was skippable. But the conflict that had been built up was finally resolved, so that was good. Chapter 9. We get a short flashback of Power and Nyako as she wakes up. Denji saving Power despite her betrayal was respectable, but his motivation was not. A new devil suddenly pops up and another fight starts, but Denji can't use his powers at the moment. This chapter was subpar. It felt like we were reaching a resolution, but then another problem suddenly showed up. This felt so random. Chapter 10. The fight continues and Denji tries to defend his shallow dream. He loses and Aki shows up to bail him out. Some new characters are shown and the chapter ends. This was also subpar. This fight was unimpressive and so was the ideological battle. Chapter 11. Aki and Denji clash about devils once again, but Aki will let him off the hook because no one died, but only if he agrees to obey his orders. Denji somewhat agrees and Power moves in with him and Aki. Aki lets Makima make this decision because he apparently likes her too. After some chaos, Power offers her breasts. This is also subpar. The conversation at the start was the only interesting part. Chapter 12. Denji does the deed and is disappointed. Makima manipulates Denji with her sex appeal before asking him to kill the gun devil. She promises to grant one of his requests if he does. This chapter was whack. Denji reaching his goal is uninteresting because I was never interested in the goal to begin with, and he is still wrapped around Makima's finger for some reason. Nothing interesting happened. Chapter 13. We see Aki's family getting massacred by the gun devil along with his kill count in a flashback when Makima explains its threat level. We are shown Aki hunting down clues to the gun devil before Aki's squad of 6 is given a mission. This was okay because we learned about the gun devil and Aki's past. Chapter 14. Aki is using a fragment to track the devil in the hotel. Arai doesn't trust the two devils, and the team bickers for some time. Himeno offers Denji a kiss if he kills the devil, and he is once again easily motivated. Arai gets jealous and starts fighting with him. When Himeno tells Aki not to die, a flashback of the two is shown. We learn that Aki is Himeno's 6th partner. At the end, an ugly devil walks out. This chapter was subpar. The only good part was the flashback. Everything else felt like a waste of time. Chapter 15. Power and Himeno kill the devil, but it's not the one that they want. Himeno explains her powers. The 6 learn that they are trapped on the 8th floor. Kobeni starts crying like a baby, and Denji goes to sleep. This chapter was also garbage. Imagine waiting a whole week for this. Chapter 16. We learn more about the current situation, and Kobeni continues to be weird. This chapter, she apparently almost drank from a toilet. We get another flashback between Aki and Himeno. This time, it's about cigarettes. The girlfriend of Himeno's old partner hits her, so Aki gets revenge by putting gum on her. This flashback also had more world building. The devil they killed comes back, but bigger. It requests Denji, and the chapter ends with Kobeni wanting to sacrifice him. This chapter was okay. The plot finally moved forward and the characters were fleshed out. Chapter 17. Aki and Himeno knock out Kobeni. I can't tell if she's supposed to be comedic relief or not. The characters try to figure out a strategy. Himeno wants Denji to die for them in the worst situation. Kobeni wakes up and acts like an idiot again. The chapter ends with the devil chasing the group. This sucked as well. We get hints about Aki's sword, but not much else. The characters either fool around or plan to no avail for the rest of the chapter. The devil is also not posing much of a threat except for trapping them. Unlike the muscle and bat devils, there is no kind of emotional plot line connecting to this devil. All the Aki and Himeno parts could be placed in any arc at any point, so the threat is uninteresting and the problem solving is either uninteresting or making little to no progress. Chapter 18. Kobeni and Arai try to kill Denji while Himeno prevents Aki from using his sword. Kobeni ends up stabbing Aki. He reveals his reason for protecting Denji, which pushes his character even further above the rest. Himeno starts panicking like an amateur when she's supposed to be a veteran, and Denji decides to fight the devil. Denji goes in and starts ripping the devil apart, but he's running out of blood, which gives the opponent the upper hand. This chapter was alright. Denji and Aki's interaction was pretty nice, but Himeno, Arai, and Kobeni acted very cowardly and unprofessional, especially the latter two. Chapter 19. Denji starts losing, but he drinks his opponent's blood to recover. A flashback shows that Himeno didn't want Aki to reach the gun devil and tries to get him to change his job. She believes that he'll die if he confronts it. Denji's fight takes 3 days, but he kills it at the end of this chapter. This was okay. The conflict ends and Himeno is fleshed out. Although minimal, this fight had strategy. Chapter 20. Denji is sent to the hospital and Aki and Himeno have a conversation. As they plan a party, we learn that Kobeni and Arai wanted to quit after this job. Aki wants Makima to be there, so they plan it when she's free. The rest of this chapter is a bunch of characters interacting at a party. This chapter was lame. There's no conflict, just an extended falling action to the arc. Chapter 21. The characters waste time hanging out and drinking. Himeno kisses Denji and vomits in his mouth. This ends with Denji and Himeno in the same bed. Garbage chapter. Chapter 22. The two sleep together, and Himeno plans to play wingman in the morning. Makima and her partner get shot by dudes on the train. The ending was interesting, but most of the chapter was trash. Chapter 23. More of the main characters are getting jumped by people with guns. A random starts talking to Denji and the others while they're eating. He eventually shoots Denji and the others. Power and Aki work together to fight back. The chapter ends with the Katana Devil emerging. This chapter was okay. Apart from the middle, something interesting was always going on. Chapter 24. Aki and the Katana Devil fight for most of this chapter. The former uses a strange curse to defeat his opponent. Another enemy shows up and wakes up the devil, who proceeds to take out Aki in one shot. This chapter was also pretty good. While the fight wasn't anything special, the art looked good, especially the last panel. Chapter 25. The dying Himeno sacrifices her body to distract the opponents and activate Denji's devil powers. Her body disappears and the chainsaw and katana devils begin their battle. Her monologue and last words to Aki were good, and the chapter had no dull moments, so I can confidently say that this was good. That's the end of volume 3. In 25 chapters, there are only 2 chapters that were good. Meanwhile, there were 6 worthless chapters, and the rest were either okay or subpar. Even widely trashed on manga, like Fairy Tail, are significantly better in their first 3 volumes. Same goes for manga that I'm no longer fond of, like Hero Academia or Black Clover. The fact that anyone can consider this a masterpiece is perplexing, and the story hasn't even reached its lowest points yet. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out my manga for free online. If you enjoy my content, please consider donating to my Patreon. All important links will be in the description.